Breaking news here in Washington, the House just passed that massive $1.7 trillion spending bill to avoid a government shutdown just as the holidays approach us. ABC's Jay O'Brien joining us from Washington along with attorney Jeff Robbins. So, Jay, just looking at the live shot from the House floor, a significant number of lawmakers not present there for the vote. So let's talk about just how they got this done and how it all came together, and it moved pretty fast.
Yeah, this process begins yesterday, Kira, with the Senate. So the Senate passes the omnibus after drawn-out negotiations in both chambers. There's a bit of a hiccup there because there's an amendment about Title 42. That gets taken out, passes the Senate yesterday, and then it goes under the House floor. That's the Senate floor from yesterday, 68 yeas, 29 nays. And then, of course, today the vote comes up in the House this afternoon, and it passes there 225 to 201. One person voted present. That was Rashida Tlaib. And then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, another notable Democrat, voted no on this. There were 9 Republicans who voted yes, but as you said, there was a lot of what's called proxy voting. Proxy voting is, and that's the House floor there, right as passage of the bill was nearing. Proxy voting is when you don't vote in person and you have a fellow member of the Congress cast your vote for you. It was implemented for COVID-19. It's supposed to really only be used for COVID-19, but it's a holiday weekend, and you have a lot of people voting proxy. Their methods and their reasoning for that, I'll let you make up your mind as to why. But again, an empty House floor because you have so many proxy votes taking place. Again, 230 registered to vote by proxy. We're still trying to work out exactly how many voted by proxy, because just because you register doesn't mean you have to vote by proxy. But again, the top line being the omnibuses passed the House. They averted a government shutdown by their deadline of tonight at midnight, and now it goes to President Biden, where he's expected to sign it, and the government will be fully funded, and the specter of a government shutdown will be not present until funding runs out in this legislation, which is September 2023, Kira.
Well, speaking of 2023, Republicans are poised to take control of the House in just a little more than a week now. So how are they reacting to the bill passing?
Well, there's a lot of House Republicans who didn't like the way this deal was struck. Again, you had 9 House Republicans who voted for this legislation, but the vast majority of House Republicans who will be in power come January 3rd when they take control of the House didn't like the way that this omnibus was crafted. Kevin McCarthy took to the floor earlier. He summed up some of what Republicans are saying on the Omni. Here's what he had to say.
This is a monstrosity that is one of the most shameful acts I've ever seen in this body. The appropriations process has failed the American public, and there's no greater example of the nail in the coffin of the greatest failure of a one-party rule of the House, the Senate, and the presidency of this bill here.
So that's Kevin McCarthy there, summing up the concerns that some of his fellow members of the House GOP conference have said, which is that they don't like how much is packed into this omnibus spending bill that funds the government. It's also worth pointing out that Kevin McCarthy poised to be the next Republican Speaker of the House if he can get 218 votes to become Speaker. So his opposition to this omnibus made even more prevalent by the fact that he's right now whipping his colleagues to try to vote for him to become Speaker of the House, which is the next hurdle Congress has to cross on January 3rd. They have to pick their next Speaker.
Oh, yes. A lot to cover in 2023 for sure. And Jeff, if we could just pivot now to the final report, and Jay, you'll probably want to weigh in as well, released by the House, January 6th attack on the Capitol. What stands out to you as we've been sifting through everything? We've been talking about the transcripts for the past few days. What's the headline for you?
Well, hey, Kira, on the subject of chilly scenes of winter, it's going to be a pretty frigid Christmas at Mar-a-Lago, and I'm not talking about the temperature. This is a withering report, 800 and some odd pages, backed by thousands of pages of transcripts, more hard evidence of wrongdoing to be placed at the in the office of the special counsel, as though the special counsel needs more evidence to work with. And so it's bad news, essentially, because on top of everything else that we have already known about, there is evidence of wrongdoing of more people. I'm thinking, for example, of Cassidy Hutchinson's lawyer, but not just him, which will lead the FBI to go up the chain and put more pressure radiating upwards to the big guy. So tough time for the former president. The committee has asked that he be barred from holding office. Not a happy Christmas there.
And also, too, Jeff, the committee identifying Trump's lawyer, one of his lawyers, as central to the creation of the plan. Also, his other attorney, John Eastman. How much trouble do you think these guys could face?
These guys are in a lot of trouble. We're talking about, depending on who it is you're talking about, obstruction of justice, suborning perjury, witness tampering, conspiracy. And that is not a problem which is just, quote unquote, confined to them, because naturally the FBI and the special counsel are going to look to them to potentially flip against people further up the chain. So as though the former president needs more headaches, he's got them.
Jay, and on the heels of the report, Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell was out swinging at former President Trump. No surprise, he has before, saying that his political clout has diminished and blames him for tarnishing the GOP's image. You know, he's not straying from the criticism that he has made prior to this.
Yeah, and we've seen that particularly from Senate Republicans, certainly on the heels of the 2022 midterms, where they did not pick up as many seats in the Senate as perhaps Republicans thought that they would. There's a slimmer majority in the House of Representatives than was predicted, too. And we have seen particularly some more moderate members of Congress come out and blame former President Trump for that. It's worth pointing out, by the way, also, as it relates to January 6th, I know I'm the Mr. Omnibus today, but in the omnibus bill that just passed the House, there's a provision for reforming the Electoral Count Act, which is the law that Trump and his allies tried to abuse on January 6th to get the Congress to reject the results of the 2020 election. So this was a bipartisan measure in Congress to try to make sure that something like January 6th did not happen again. It was called for in the committee's report, and it's in this omnibus, which passed the Senate yesterday, passed the House today, and is on its way for President Biden's signature.
Important point to make. We do not ever want to go through that again, do we? Jay O'Brien, Jeff Robbins, guys, thanks so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.